Football is a game of chemistry between players and system, where the right tactical approach can transform good players into legends. But what happens when that chemistry goes horribly wrong, when a manager's philosophy clashes so violently with a player's natural instincts that it suffocates their very essence on the pitch? Today, we're diving into 8 cautionary tales of talented footballers whose careers took devastating nosedives not because they lacked ability, but because their managers failed to understand what made them special in the first place. Jack Grealish arrived at Manchester City in 2021 as the most expensive British player in history, carrying the hopes of a nation and the weight of a £100 million price tag. At Aston Villa, he was pure magic, a player who could single-handedly change games with his mesmerizing dribbling, his ability to win fouls in dangerous positions, and his knack for creating something from nothing. But under Pep Guardiola's rigid system at City, that magic has been systematically drained away. The statistics tell a damning story. Grealish scored his first club goal in over a year in January 2025, highlighting just how far his output had fallen. At Villa, everything flowed through him. He was the conductor of their orchestra, free to drift inside, take on defenders and dictate tempo. At City, he was reduced to a width-holding winger, asked to recycle possession and wait for overlaps rather than express his natural flair. The irony deepens when you consider Guardiola's own words upon signing Grealish, praising his ability to control the tempo when he accelerates and decelerates. Yet in practice, the Spanish manager has systematically removed those very qualities that made Grealish special, reshaping him into a cog in his tactical machine rather than the creative force he was born to be. Now, flourishing on loan at Everton with 4 assists in 4 games, the world can once again see the true Jack Grealish. Speaking of creative forces being stifled, Gabriel Martinelli's decline at Arsenal presents another fascinating case study in how overcoaching can backfire spectacularly. After a breakthrough 2022-23 season where he scored 15 goals and terrorized Premier League defenses, the Brazilian winger has become a shadow of his former self under Mikel Arteta's increasingly restrictive system. The data reveals the extent of Martinelli's regression. His non-penalty expected goals plummeted from 9.1 in his stellar season to just 6.8 and 7.4 in subsequent campaigns, while his shot-creating actions per 90 minutes dropped from 410 to 2.91. More telling is his tackle success rate, which deteriorated from 41.4% to over 55%, suggesting he's taking fewer risks and playing more conservatively. Martinelli's biggest weakness remains his decision-making in the final third, consistently running with his head down and failing to spot teammates. Rather than addressing this fundamental flaw, Arteta's system has appeared to amplify it, creating a player paralyzed by tactical instruction when instinct should take over. The arrivals of Trossard, Madueke and Eze only compounded the problem, adding pressure that Martinelli has visibly struggled to handle. Across London, another player was experiencing his own tactical nightmare. Mohamed Kudus' relationship with Julian Lopetegui at West Ham deteriorated so badly that teammates had to restrain the Ghanaian after training ground confrontations. The bust-ups weren't just personality clashes, they represented a fundamental disconnect between player and system that made his time under the Spanish manager utterly miserable. Kudus was particularly incensed after being singled out for criticism and substituted at half-time during West Ham's draw with Brentford, a move that highlighted Lopetegui's inability to harness the winger's considerable talents. Under David Moyes, Kudus had flourished as West Ham's creative outlet, but Lopetegui's more structured approach left little room for the improvisation and flair that made the Ghanaian such a threat. A move to a bigger team was always on the cards, and he is now flourishing with Tottenham. The pattern of Guardiola-induced decline extends beyond Grealish. Mario Götze's struggles at Bayern Munich under Pep's guidance offer another cautionary tale about the Spanish manager's sometimes inflexible approach to player development. Fresh from scoring Germany's World Cup winning goal in 2000, stating for the young German. Deployed across the midfield and as a false nine, Götze never found the consistency needed to build on his early promise. Despite managing 15 goals in his debut season, there was a persistent sense that he was being used incorrectly, his natural instincts suppressed by tactical demands that didn't suit his playing style. The psychological impact was evident. Götze later admitted regretting his move to Bayern, openly acknowledging that the tactical fit was wrong from the start. His eventual return to Dortmund in 2016 spoke volumes about how completely the experiment had failed. At Manchester United, the tactical graveyard runs even deeper. Angel Di Maria's catastrophic season under Louis van Gaal remains one of the Premier League's most expensive failures, but the blame doesn't lie with the player's ability. Van Gaal's rigid 3-5-2 system and constant positional changes turned one of world football's most dynamic wingers into a confused, ineffective shadow. Van Gaal's insistence on playing him in central midfield, completely removed from his natural wide positions, demonstrated a fundamental misunderstanding of what made the Argentine special. The tactical mismanagement was compounded by the Dutchman's inflexible approach to player roles, where Real Madrid had given Di Maria freedom to drift and create. United demanded positional discipline that neutered his greatest strengths. Ryan Giggs later suggested that Van Gaal simply didn't understand how to use Di Maria effectively, a damning indictment of the Dutch manager's player management. Timo Werner's Chelsea nightmare represents perhaps the most dramatic example of how different league styles can expose tactical inflexibility. Werner arrived from RB Leipzig as one of Europe's most feared strikers, but Thomas Tuchel and Frank Lampard's systems at Stamford Bridge were brutally ill-suited to his skill set. The German thrived on space to run in behind defences, but Chelsea's possession-heavy approach and compact Premier League marking left him starved of the opportunities he needed. His shocking miss rate became a meme, but the root problem was tactical. Werner was being asked to operate in areas and situations that played against his natural strengths. By the time he returned to Leipzig, the damage to his confidence was already done, and he's now an outcast at the club. Now to another German at Chelsea, Frank Lampard's candid admission about Kai Havertz's time with the Blues provided a clear picture of why it didn't work out for the former Leverkusen man. The English manager acknowledged that Havertz's best position wasn't quite clear during his 3-year spell at Stamford Bridge, an extraordinary confession about one of football's most expensive signings. Shuffled between midfield and false nine positions, Havertz never found the consistency to fulfill his enormous potential at Chelsea. His transformation at Arsenal, where Mikel Arteta has deployed him as a genuine centre-forward, demonstrates how the right tactical framework can resurrect a career that seemed to be stalling. Finally, Alexis Sanchez's Manchester United ordeal under Jose Mourinho serves as the ultimate example of how tactical rigidity can destroy even the most talented players. The Chilean became disillusioned after dropping out of favour under Mourinho, his creative instincts stifled by the Portuguese manager's defensive mindset. At Arsenal, Sanchez had been given license to roam, press high, and create chaos in the final third. At United, Mourinho's more structured approach demanded discipline that went against every natural instinct the Chilean possessed. The result was a player who looked lost on the pitch, his confidence shot, and his performances increasingly erratic. These 8 stories share common threads: talented players reduced to shadows of themselves by managers who either couldn't or wouldn't adapt their systems to accommodate different playing styles. They serve as reminders that in football, as in life, one size definitely doesn't fit all. What do you think? Are these managers to blame, or should players be more adaptable? Let us know in the comments. Remember to leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it and subscribe to the channel. Also be sure to turn on post notifications so that you never miss out on any videos. Catch you in the next one. Bye.